Where does Eleanor Blue come from?
That is just my first name and my middle name. My real middle name is Blue. So I just decided to take those two and use them as a stage name because it was catchy.
I'm Larry Coressel, and this is Arts Focus. Today featuring a young local composer, Eleanor Blue, discussing her style and inspirations.
So I'm very inspired by more minimalist contemporary artists like Philip Glass. Philip Glass is one of my biggest inspirations. I like Ludovico Einaudi. I like, not as modern, but Eric Satie. Just a lot of the minimalist composers who do a lot with repetition and progressive chord changes and all that stuff. I got really into that when I was probably about 9 or 10, and that's around the time I started taking my music really seriously and really wanting to compose pieces.
And what instrument or instruments do you play?
Piano. That's pretty much it. I do a little bit of singing, but mostly just piano.
Your compositions range from, chamber music to bigger forces? What's like the largest scale thing you've written so far?
Probably Fracture off my first album, The Cycle. I have not been able to get into a studio to perform with some people who play strings. I haven't been able to really find anyone in my area who could do that. So we've just been doing everything at home, at my home studio, creating the strings on the keyboard, using preset sounds for them. But that was probably the biggest piece I've ever done in terms of technicality, because it has a couple different string parts in it that I wanted to add. So it would be wonderful if someday I could get some people who actually play those instruments, violin, cello, all that, and perform with them, perform that piece.
What's your process from the beginning of writing a piece of music?
I usually end up coming up with chord progressions first, and then I build a melody on top of that. I'm a big fan of polyrhythms, which Philip Glass does a lot, where you basically play one rhythm with your right hand and one with your left hand, so you're doing two different rhythms at once. It creates a really nice, dense sound. So a lot of the time, I'll start off with a chord progression and then just build that into a polyrhythm and then build a melody on top of that.
What are you working on right now?
I have a couple pieces that I'm working on. I will hopefully be releasing another 3 or 4 songs this year, 2026. I have one actually that I just started working on yesterday.
And you are self-published as a composer.
Yes.
How do you do that?
That is the very long, complicated answer to that. It's easier now than it ever has been for indie artists to be their own record label, because that's what it is. You are your own record label if you are an indie artist who's doing everything yourself. But it still is very difficult. There's a lot of organizations you need to sign up for to make sure you're getting your royalties that you're owed. There's some hoops you have to jump through. It can, unfortunately, be very expensive. Copyright, in particular, is very expensive to register. But I wanted to make sure I had full control over my music, so that's kind of why I chose that path, as opposed to seeking out a record label or someone else to manage all of that. I just manage it myself. But it's an unfortunately complicated and expensive process.
Where do you see yourself in a few years as a composer? Do you want to branch out and, if you had the money, if you had the time, the resources, do you see yourself branching out and writing music for a full symphony orchestra?
I would love to do that. That would be my dream. I've also thought about maybe getting into film scoring and video game scoring, because I've always been obsessed with film scores and video game scores, and I think it's a very underappreciated art sometimes. So I would love to get into that as well.
The voice and the music of area composer Eleanor Blue. Get more details about her music by visiting eleanorblue.org. I'm Larry Coressel. Arts Focus is a production of Dayton's listener-supported Discover Classical.